breaking news, just hot off the presses. Welcome back to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I am the NFL genius, Gene Walzek, and to my upper left corner, Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College Cottrell.
How you doing today, Gene? Doing good. You got a lot of energy. I love to see it.
Bro, there's some days you're the hammer, and there's some days you're the nail. And today is the day that I'm the hammer. In the upper right corner, I got Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, Mr. William Shallcross.
Good evening, gentlemen. How is everyone?
I'm phenomenal. We got to talk about breaking news. Breaking news just happened. Jim Harbaugh, head coach of Michigan, is no longer with the Michigan Wolverines. Jim Harbaugh is now signed a contract to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. Jim will be taking over for Brandon Staley, developing Justin Herbert, changing the culture that's in the locker room. Jim Harbaugh is left Michigan. I need to get Shally's reaction from the guy. He's not leaving. Then he changed it to he's only leaving for the Chargers. So he slid that one in there, and here we are. So Shally, your reaction. I want you to thank him on his way out. Just give him a nice thank you. You can shine the trophy as you're doing it. Like, listen, thank you, Mr. Shally. Thank you, Mr. Harbaugh. Like, go ahead. Shally, on you.
No, I mean, my gut always was I thought he might stay. The writing in the contract apparently is what held it up, and I said from the get-go I thought there was only one team he would leave for, and I thought it would be to coach the Chargers and Justin Herbert. He's talked publicly about him before. I never really thought Atlanta was. I thought Atlanta was a complete leverage play, and you saw that today when he canceled the second interview, and obviously they were getting super close to getting a deal done. Part of me, is sad. Part of me is not surprised either. He wants to win a Super Bowl. He wants to try to be the guy that's won a national championship at a Super Bowl, and I think he got close, and I think he looks at going to the Chargers with Herbert is a great opportunity to do so, and it's one of the few things he would have left to do. So. Can't really be mad. He went back to Michigan and did what he said he was going to do. We won the national championship. So, we'll see what, program itself is in good hands. Sharon Moore is a great coach in waiting. I think that's also going to be an awesome thing for the university in general. He's going to be their first black head coach. And I don't think there's a more deserving person to do so. So, good luck to him. I will be very interesting to see what the Chargers look like next year. I think you mentioned the very important part. It's not so much about Herbert. The culture is going to change within that locker room and how they do things. I think a lot of the lackadaisical, soft things that they got away with the last couple of years under Brandon Staley is not going to happen. That team will look completely different next year. I'm not going to go out and say they're going to win 12 games or something like that. They're probably a year or so away with other holes they have to plug still. But in a year or two, that team is going to be very good, and it's going to look very different. They're getting a great football coach. He's won at every level, everywhere he's been. So, if you're a Chargers fan, you are extremely happy. Gene, we joke around about it a lot, but, we're critical of Justin Herbert. But, he has a great coach to develop under now. He's going to be held to a higher standard on that team now, and he should look better next year, because if he doesn't, then it'll be very interesting. But like I said, I think it's a lot to digest. We literally found out a couple minutes, like literally 2 minutes before we came on air. So I'm sad for Michigan, but at the same time, we did do what we wanted to do, and I think the program's in very, very good hands. And we'll see what happens. What happens going forward.
He sounded sad. I'm not going to lie to you. He sounded sad. And that's okay to sound sad. By the way, just wondering, is it all – I know it's not obviously official because the Harbaugh thing became official, but is it all but 100% official that Michigan is going to hire Sharon Moore?
I'll say it this way. I would be I don't know who they would be able to get at this point that would make sense over Sharon Moore. And I think they risk a mass exodus if they do not give the job to Sharon Moore. I'm not saying to turn around and give him a 10-year deal. You probably give him like a 3 or 4 year contract, but he's also one of the head recruiters, on that team. So a lot of those kids are there because of Sharon Moore. So if they do not give him the team, then if they don't give him the job, I honestly would be shocked. I really would.
Okay. Now I heard from Shally. Here's what I got to hear. I got to hear from Cottrell. Cottrell, are you doing victory laps?
No.
Like the guy is gone. The boogeyman is out of the conference. You no longer have to deal with your arch nemesis that has been laying the smack down on Ohio State for 3 straight years.
That's true.
Good.
It's very true. I got to give Harbaugh's credit. Him being able to put together a 3-game win streak. It's the first time I've seen that in my entire life. Michigan beat Ohio State 3 straight times. So I got to give him all the credit in the world there. The rivalry is back, and this is probably the strongest it's been in my entire lifetime. So definitely have to give him his credit there. He went out. He came back to Michigan. Ultimate goal was to put together a national championship winning team, and that's what he did. But, Gene, pump the brakes a little bit there. Let's not forget Jim Harbaugh. I know these past 3 years, everyone's high on their high horse over at Michigan. Let's not forget Jim Harbaugh still has a losing record against Ohio State. He's going to take that with him. He's going to take that with him to the NFL.
Hold on. I got to stop you there.
That's fine.
Jordan had a losing record against the Detroit Pistons until he finally overcame them. And that's my comparison to what Harbaugh was versus Ohio State. The bad boys beat him up in the 80s. When he finally got his quarterback, his Pippen, when he finally got his Pippen in there, guess what happened? They beat him, and they beat him down. And they dismantled the team.
You're right. You're right. And, I do love that comparison. But don't forget, the Bulls weren't the same championship winning Bulls once Michael Jordan retired. In this case, Michigan was not going to be that same Michigan team once J.J. McCarthy went on to the NFL, and once those, the COVID seniors and all those kids that returned from the past couple years that wanted to not only just make it to the college football playoff, but win a national championship. A lot of those kids are going to the NFL as well. So,
but see, you had it. Cottrell, you had it. You should have said when Jordan went to the NFL or when Jordan went to the NBA, because what you just don't talk about when the seniors retire. Don't talk about the COVID kids. It's Jim Harbaugh. The boogeyman is out of the conference, and Ohio State can sleep tonight.
That's not. I'm not saying that's why they had this crazy advantage, things like that. I'm just saying we already knew with Jim or without Jim, Michigan was taking a step back next year. And, we all pretty much thought that. Shally even said, we talked about it on Coast to Coast. And, with Harbaugh coming back, just knowing that JJ was going to the NFL, we still expected Michigan to take a step back. We knew that they would still be talented there. So that's not to take like anything necessarily away from them. I'm just saying we already knew this wasn't going to be the same Michigan team. I just think instead of taking one step back, how I originally thought, I think it's going to be 2 steps back. I think you're going to see.
We already knew, though, bro. I think Harbaugh did it the smart way, man. I think a lot of things were coming down the pipeline. I think that he's obviously losing a couple guys, but it's the smart thing. The guy wants to go to the NFL and coach a winner. He has an opportunity to coach a franchise quarterback. That's what you need. They have a lot of salary cap issues. However, I think that Harbaugh is the type of guy that can take a 5th rounder, take a 6th rounder, make that into a culture guy, create a culture in that locker room. And now, Cottrell, here's the beauty part. You don't have to root against him anymore. You can act because he's a Herbert guy. You can root for him. You could be happy for him now.
I won't necessarily say I'll be happy for the guy. You don't just erase the rivalry. Like that's just not what happens in the game. But I will say just one other thing here. Shally, you mentioned that I kind of want to hear from you on this. You mentioned that Sharon Moore is their key recruiter. And, I'll give him credit because a lot of those guys, like I'm sure Donovan Edwards, big reason why he went to Michigan was because of Sharon Moore. JJ, same thing. But without Harbaugh being that name there, Michigan already was like somewhere in that 15 to 20 range in terms of recruiting classes consistently. Without Jim there, do you think they take a dip there, or do you think it's probably going to still stay consistently around that marker?
No, I mean, the last two classes they've had, they were like 12th and 14th, but you forget the three classes before that were all in the top 10, and that's a lot of the kids that just left. It's Sharon Moore has been there for a while. I mean, he's the biggest thing about Sharon Moore is that I don't think a lot of people realize is he's the offensive line coach. He's the offensive line recruiter. So all those kids that have come through that program in the last 3 or 4 years, offensive line wise, that have been the building block of that team, they're all Sharon Moore guys. I don't think you're going to see anybody leave. I really don't. I mean, as long as they give them the job, I think if they go elsewhere, then I think all hell might break loose. But, I think you brought up a lot of interesting points. I think you look at Harbaugh's record, against Ohio State. I think you left out that Ryan Day has a losing record against Michigan. Urban Meyer's not there anymore. The good old days of those, so we'll see. I mean, it's all on the line this year. So we've talked about it recently. You guys went out and, kind of did the Michigan thing and had a bunch of kids come back, for the chance to win a championship. And you'll have that now. And then you guys went out and spent $13 million in the portal. So, it's all or nothing for Mr. Bourne on third this year. So,
if you guys can't tell, Shally and Cottrell are college rivals. And that's okay. Guys, we have a lot to get into the show. This was brought in last minute. We still have an action-packed show. There will be more on Harbaugh and the Los Angeles Chargers. Make sure you're on the Wire2Wire Sports Network page. You'll see more graphics. You'll see more conversations. But we got to move on. Divisional playoffs just happened. NFL, it is wild right now. Guys, we opened up with a game that a lot of us, maybe not Cottrell called this one pretty almost too exact. A lot of us thought C.J. Stroud and the Texans would keep that game close. In the first half, they did. They kept the game close. C.J. Stroud did a great job. D'Amico Ryans had that Brian Flores, that nickel double A gap pressure that is blitzing. He sent more blitzes in that game than he did in the entire year. But the one thing people are forgetting about with Baltimore is they have 2 brand new coordinators this year. And both of those coordinators did a phenomenal job with halftime adjustments. We can't discredit what the Baltimore Ravens did in this football game. I heard someone on another show say the Houston Texans looked like they quit. No, they didn't. Mike McDonald had an excellent game plan for C.J. Stroud and the Texans in the second half. And Lamar Jackson and company on the offensive side of the ball did an incredible job of adjusting to the Texans' pressure and dominate that second half. We won't spend too much time recapping, but anything surprise you about this football game? Anything that you would like to bring up and talk about Ravens versus Texans?
It's like C.J. Stroud still struggling to score points against Harbaugh's and Michigan defense.
Oh, my God. Yo, you're coming off the top rope tonight.
But, no, listen, that being said, I've been a big C.J. guy all year. And I think you nailed it on the head. I think it is – that game started out close. I think Texans had a good game plan. And then it was, like you said, it went into halftime. And they made a bunch of adjustments. And I think it was stuff – I don't want to say that CJ wasn't ready for, but I think they made him adjust. They definitely changed his eyes and changed what he was looking at, and you saw the difference very quickly. And then, Baltimore finally got their offense going, and then the game kind of got away from Houston really quick. I'm not going to say too much. I'm going to tell you that it's going to be very curious to see where he lands on everybody's lists come springtime for the top 10. But he is, I think he's shut a lot of people up, and he's done it on the field. He's done it the right way. He's been humble about it. He just goes out and plays the game the right way. I think if Houston can get a couple more weapons around him, definitely get him a sustained running game and probably another wide receiver to go with Nico and Tank. I think they're the best team in that division.
So
say it. I think they are. Well,
you're talking about the Houston Texans, and I think that the Houston Texans could be the best team in that division. I do think that this offseason, or this postseason, I mean, has been a little, I don't want to say a little overreactionary. Like, I just heard someone recently say Jordan Love is a top 5 franchise quarterback going forward. That is crazy. I think CJ Stroud's borderline top 10, but like, you can't just automatically place this guy in the top 10 when you have, and listen, I know you got to put him ahead of Dak Prescott, but Dak Prescott had an MVP-like season. Brock Purdy had an MVP-like season. Lamar Jackson, Tua led the league in passing yards. Jared Goff's still in the playoffs. I know we're going to overreact to what he does, especially if he wins a road game versus San Fran. You have Mahomes, Rodgers, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. There's so many guys in that near that top 10 part. I think that CJ Stroud's going to be close to that 10. He could be 10. He could be 9. I could hear the argument. But, like, let's pump the brakes. This guy's rookie year, he had a great rookie year. Historic rookie year. Might be the best rookie year from a quarterback of all time.
He had the best rookie year of a quarterback of all time.
And that's great. But we can't just anoint him. There is a sophomore slump. They will have a tougher schedule next year. He looked good. I will put him right around my 9 through 11 range. And Jordan Love's not cracking my top 10. You guys are nuts. I cannot believe people are talking about this kid being a top 5 franchise quarterback.
Well, I didn't say anything about Jordan Love.
Jordan Love will for sure not be in my top 10. But, I mean, the reality of it is I'm with you, Bill. I do think the Texans are the best team in that division. And I think C.J. Stroud's the best quarterback in that division. I think he showed out. He showed out this offseason. I think the biggest adjustment, though, I do want to give credit to Todd Monken, because in that game specifically, in that first half, the Texans had 5 quarterback hurries, and they sacked Lamar Jackson 3 different times in that first half. And that's the same amount of times that they ended the game with. So they started in that first half, 5 QB hurries, 3 sacks. They ended the game with 5 quarterback hurries and 3 sacks. So clearly, Monken made an adjustment with the offensive line and that protection to make sure they kept Lamar Jackson upright. And that was the difference. You know, DeMeco Ryans, he was sending a lot of different pressures at Lamar, and every time they blitzed, it either got home or they got him off of his spot and made him very uncomfortable. So I got to give, Todd a lot of credit there for making that adjustment.
Old Georgia guy.
What was that?
Old Georgia guy.
Yeah, after he got fired from the NFL.
Listen, Todd Monken did a great job making adjustments. I want to move on to the Sunday night game, or Saturday night game. I call this the Denny Green game. This was the Denny Green game. We knew who they were. They were who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook. The Green Bay Packers had the beast from the NFC on the ropes. The 49ers were reeling. They took a haymaker, a left hook. They were almost down for the count. And Jordan Love's last 4 possessions, interception, punt, interception, downs. Can't happen. Can't happen. And when you look at what happened in that Green Bay game, missed field goal, not downs. So I apologize. But when you look at what happened in that game, Green Bay really came out, hit him in the mouth. Brock Purdy lost Deebo Samuel early in that game. Looked very pedestrian for 3 quarters. Pedestrian. But for whatever Jordan Love did great, those first 3 quarters, it was like the Monstars came down, put their hand on the basketball, and stole the talent from Jordan Love and handed it back to Brock Purdy. Because that 4th quarter, it was Purdy time. It looked pretty good. Go ahead, Control. I know you're ready. I know you're ready to take shots.
No. I'm not going to take any shots. I was going to say, I had the Packers covering in this game. 2 for 2. I thought the Packers were going to be able to keep in this game. I will say the one thing that I didn't get from the Green Bay side of things is Aaron Jones. He didn't have a great game. It wasn't the same game that he had against. The Cowboys. But I thought they kind of got away from the run more than they should have in that second half. And, I give Brock Purdy all the credit in the world for, getting basically throwing out the whole first 3 quarters and saying, hey, I got to lead the team down and score here. And I know CMC had a long touchdown in that game as well. But when they needed it most, Brock Purdy made every single throw he needed to make.
So
Jordan,
God, I'm sorry. I
was just gonna say Jordan Love's decision making that final drive. I don't understand. Like I still don't understand. I get trying to make a play, throwing it across your body. No one was even open when he threw it. So like that's the play there that if I'm a Packers fan, I'm just gonna keep thinking about because if you throw that ball out of bounds there, it'd be one thing if it was fourth down. You throw the ball out of bounds there and the game's over. But it wasn't a fourth down. You could have threw it out and given your team another shot. Throwing it across your body, I feel like Jordan Love was trying to play some hero ball there. Absolutely, inexplicable there. But that's just where I'm at.
You mentioned the thing about Aaron Jones, and I want to tell you why I think Green Bay got away from the run. He had 18 carries for 108 yards, and on the surface, that looks like it's really good until you break down the fact that one was a 53-yard run. They had 17 carries for 55 yards. They got away from the run because they were running the ball 3.1 yards per carry outside the one that he broke. I get what you're saying, but they were not running for success, and they were putting Jordan Love behind the sticks multiple times. When I watched that game and I broke that game down, I seen a lot of 2nd and 9s, 3rd and 8s in that third quarter and that fourth quarter when Green Bay started to slow down a little bit. Look at that fourth quarter. I think, and listen, I'll blame the kicker in this game more than I blame the kicker in the Buffalo Bills game. I will, because if he makes that kick, I really believe that Green Bay wins this football game. I think that was the difference in the football game. I think instead of Love going down to tie the game, they know they have a tie game at the point, and he's going down with the opportunity to win the game. They just need to get in field goal range. They don't need to get in field goal range and then win again in overtime. I also think Jordan Love made some really bad decisions in that fourth quarter. Now, Packers fans, it's not all doom and gloom. You stood there on the road with the NFC's best and gave them shot for shot, and Jordan Love for 7 quarters of this postseason looked like an elite franchise quarterback. I'm just saying, I'm not giving them a full pass on what happened in that fourth quarter. The Packers look good. They look good for 7 quarters. They beat the 2 seed. Dallas Cowboys destroyed them. And they hung in there with the San Francisco 49ers and almost won the football game. Shai, what are your thoughts on the Packers 49ers?
I think you guys have you kind of hit like all the big points. I think the important thing is it's kind of like you guys said. If you want to win a divisional round playoff game, especially on the road, you got to play 60 minutes. That's what it's going to take to win. If you want to beat a Baltimore Ravens team on their home field, it's going to take 60 minutes. Same thing with San Francisco. Those teams are the number 1 seeds for a reason. If you're a Green Bay fan, I think you have to be optimistic. I think you've seen enough now to be hopeful and, not say that Jordan Love is a, top 5 franchise pillar type QB. Maybe he grows into that, but that's not what he is now. But to give him his due and give him his credit, I think you've seen enough growth to think that he is at least your next year or two, your starting quarterback and somebody you can at least build around, and hopefully bring in young talent and continue to build that team and not really have to worry about the quarterback position. They played great, man. They gave San Francisco everything they wanted, but like you said, you have to be able to finish the job. San Francisco is not a team that's just going to roll over and give you the game. And like you said, they gave them too many opportunities in the fourth quarter, and then they put 2 drives together, and Shanahan and Purdy and all those guys figured it out, and they went down and scored and won the game. The missed field goal is unfortunate. But that's, again, it's part of the game.
Yep, I agree.
It is, and that's why you look at guys like Justin Tucker and people like that. Like, you put that guy on the field, and you don't say, I put him out there and pray. You put Justin Tucker out there, you're like, we're gonna win the game in 3 seconds. That's the difference. It's you got to play all 3 phases. You got to play 60 minutes. You got to play all 3 phases. I've said it a million times this year. Little things lead to big things. And Green Bay started doing the little things wrong. And before you know it, you turn around, they're behind on the scoreboard, and they're done for the year. But if you're a Green Bay Packer fan, I think especially for the way the season started as well, I think you have to be ecstatic that they got in, actually won a game, made a run, gave San Fran a hell of a game for 50 out of 60 minutes. And you have to be optimistic going into next year and hope they do well in the draft and hit free agency well, and that team continues to improve.
I will say my biggest takeaway from this Packers team, how in the hell did Aaron Rodgers not get them in the playoffs last year? No, it's not the exact same team, but that's been my biggest takeaway from this entire Packer
Not
experience.
enough talent, Cottrell. Not enough talent there. Not enough talent.
Look, I was on that wave, but now seeing what Jordan Love did, hanging 48 on that Cowboys defense. Granted, I know we talked about him last week and what they did wrong, but Jordan Love looked like a man possessed these playoffs, and I know what Aaron can do. I saw him win 2 straight MVPs, and they didn't even make it to the dance. So it's got me questioning some things. That's all.
Well, let's get into Sunday. We don't have to spend too much time recapping this, except for the bonehead mistake at the end of the game, in my opinion. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hung with the Detroit Lions, and I think that was a fun game to watch. It was interesting. It was tied at the half. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were in this ball game. In the second half, you got to give Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, and even the defense all the credit in the world. They did what they needed to do. They made the stops when they needed to make them. And give Detroit their credit. They run the ball with anybody. But they threw the ball over the yard too, man. Jared Goff, 10 points in the first half, 21 in the second. The guy looked like he was ready to rock and roll. Detroit holds on, wins the game 31-23. Now, neither one of you guys said you're using it, so I'll at least mention it. What was Todd Bowles thinking at the end of that football game?
Not one clue. I don't know how that gets. And it's not even, I do put it on Todd Bowles, but I put it on everybody. You got people in the booth. Like, how did no one on the headset catch that?
I think what happened
anybody
right.
at any point could have called timeout.
I think what happened in this game, and I mean this, is I think that Dan Campbell and Todd Bowles had like a little head nod, white flag salute before the Lions started kneeling the ball. I believe that because the Lions kneeled the ball with like 17 seconds left on the play clock when they didn't need to do that. They did it like 39 seconds left in the game, 38 seconds left in the game. They didn't have to. They could have ran that down to about 22 seconds, and they didn't. And the first kneel down, they snapped the ball with like 5 seconds left on the play clock. They wasted 22 seconds, no doubt about it. Do you think that Dan Campbell and Todd Bowles just like, yep, white flag, head nod, just kneel it out, we're good? Because it was kind of strange the way Detroit handled it too. It made you think. That's all. I don't understand how it just made you think. Like Todd Bowles afterwards, like, well, the game was over. They were in field goal range. As if we didn't watch 2 kickers miss 40-yard field goals for their teams to lose in the playoffs. They call a timeout with 38 seconds left. Guy misses a field goal. You got 38 seconds.
And it's not like it's one of those gimmies either. That would have been like a 53.
46.
46. And if he misses, you're getting the ball on almost the 40. So you're almost at midfield.
Cottrell's right, actually. It was before the kneel downs. I looked at the time. The kneel downs actually moved them back. Sorry.
Bowles doubled down on it again today, and he said the game was over. He got asked by another reporter, like, why didn't you try or at least press the issue? And he's like, the game was over. If you're Dan Campbell and you're going to sit there and Todd Bowles is going to let it happen, that's what you do.
No, but you don't snap the ball with 17 seconds left.
I don't give a damn what the agreement is. I'm not even risking it because all it takes. It doesn't have to be Todd. Like they could have that agreement, head nod, whatever. But if a player sees it and he's like, "Oh, timeout," then Dan's looking across the island like, "Hey, what the hell?" And then Todd's not going to blast this player for trying to win the football game afterwards. So you just be stuck between a rock and a hard place there.
That was very odd. But Detroit's moving on. I want to get into the Sunday night football game because that was the game of the night. That was the game of the weekend. It was an incredible football game. Kansas City versus Buffalo. The first half of that football game, Buffalo looked like they were going to win the game. They looked dominant, but the score was like within reach. It was 13-10. Second half of the football game, Buffalo stopped being able to run the ball in between the tackles. And when they stopped being able to run the ball in between the tackles, they got caught up in a couple situations. I am not going to allow you to blame Tyler Bass for this loss. Tyler Bass needs to make that kick, no doubt about it. I got news for you. He makes the kick, they still lose the football game. You're going to give the greatest quarterback in the world a minute 55 to get in field goal range to win the game. He's shown you he only needs 13 seconds. I don't believe it. I don't stand for it. Yes, if they kick the field goal to tie the football game, the Buffalo Bills would have a better chance to win that game. Let's talk about what it gave Buffalo a better chance to win the game. I don't know. Your prima donna wide receiver who's always popping off at the mouth in the media talking about Josh Allen this or this guy that and this person this, standing on the field looking at Kansas City celebrate, dropped the 55-yard pass that was directly in his hands. Or your overpaid quarterback who had a wide open touchdown pass and he threw it 7 yards short. Oh, and by the way, on that same touchdown pass in which he missed the receiver who had 4 yards of separation, which is an eternity in the NFL, he also had Stephon Diggs wide open on a crosser route for the first down. All that stuff led up to the 41-yard missed field goal in a ridiculous weather condition where you can obviously see the wind moving the football. I'm not saying Tyler Bass shouldn't have known what the wind would have been or if he would have made the kick, but stop sending this man death threats. You guys are idiots if you think Tyler Bass was the reason you lost that football game. I love Bills Mafia. I give them all the credit in the world. Last week I was spouting their praises. Stop it with the Tyler Bass slander. It's not okay. Great football game, but I'm telling you right now, you remember when Pedro Martinez wore the Who's Your Daddy shirt to the Yankees? Where like the Yankees are my daddy because he couldn't beat the Yankees? I think Sean McDermott needs to wear that shirt for Andy Reid in the playoffs.
I'm really shocked that once again, I mean, Buffalo just seems content to just run it back again. I mean, I don't know how many chances, and obviously I like Sean McDermott. I'm a Sean McDermott guy. He started here. You know, I just don't know how many chances you're going to give him to get over the hump with that roster. I would be shocked if Diggs is on that team next year. I really would.
He's $29 million cap hit. He's got $29 million dead cap.
I guarantee you, if a team is saying that they want a receiver like Diggs, they would be more than willing to eat at least half of it. And if Buffalo gets a team that says they'll eat half, I think you have to let them go and just eat the 15 mil and call it a day. You can get rid of Vaughn's contract. You can get that off the books and open up some cap there. Gabe Davis is going to be a free agent next year as well. You got some money you can kind of play around with there. I agree with Eugene. You can't just go 29 million straight dead cap. But I think a team would be willing to take on half of that for Diggs' talent.
Somebody will take Stephon Diggs for $14 million. I mean, I think that the awful part is I think Josh Allen had a great game up until that drive. He was very safe with the ball, made a lot of really big plays with his legs. You know, even after, like Gene said, they kind of really started stringing James Cook out and didn't let him run between the tackles. But again, I mean, the other part of it is, you know, I just mentioned the kicking game. Go try to kick a ball 42 yards in the air with a breeze coming 30 miles per hour across. I don't care who it is listening. I'll give you $1,000 bet. I'll give you 10 kicks. You won't make one of them. I promise.
You're right. You're right.
You know, that being said, you know, it is still his job, and the kid felt awful, you know, but I mean, look how many kicks, you know, he's made for that team in that stadium. You know, he's used to kicking there. It didn't go his way. And you have to look to Gene's original point, which is true. Josh underthrew that ball because I think as he was getting ready to throw it, I really think he kind of second guessed it. The more egregious part to me was the Stephon Diggs crossing route where he was wide open. And if you put the ball on him there, assuming Diggs catches it, that field goal is going to be at least 15 yards closer.
I don't know if that's a safe assumption.
I get it. Listen, and I don't disagree with either one of you. I mean, I think for as much as he's run his mouth, it's another game. He had 4 catches for 21 yards. Sorry.
And a fumble that he got lucky that his offensive line
lucky as hell. Correct. After the other 2 guys missed it. 100% correct.
Because Kincaid tapped it. They give Kincaid credit for being Johnny on the spot.
Bailed him out there. That's not a $30 million receiver to me. Look at all the other big names that should be the game.
8 targets, 2 drops, 3 receptions, 21 yards. And the fake punt. I'll tell you right now, and this is going to sound terrible. I might get in trouble for what I'm about to say. That looked like a friggin' Make-A-Wish fake punt, dude. I don't like why. Like, okay, DeMar Hamlin a fake punt, and it'd be a great story. You looked like a bunch of idiots running that fake punt. That had to be the worst fake punt in the history of football. Like, I'm not like that was terrible.
Well, the execution was terrible. It was they were, they discussed it on the telecast. Kansas City only had 10 guys on the field, so I mean, I hate to say it. You look at the execution of it, and and to me, the weird thing about how slow it looked. But
yes, he looked like he was running in mud.
Yeah, but
it looked like they were all running in mud. The blockers, everybody in front of them, everybody just was like, "Hey, I think we're supposed to try and get the first down here. I got the football. Yeah. The punter doesn't have it. Let's maybe try to pass the line."
Yeah, the call was right. It's just the execution was atrocious. I feel like half the people on the line heard it and the other half didn't, and they were still kind of just like punt pro blocking. The other half are like trying to drive guys back, and then it just turned into a disaster.
There's no way in hell I get the Chiefs only had 10 people on the field. I can't justify that fake punt. I don't care if they had 7 on the field. I'm not calling a fake punt there in that situation. If you want to go for it and be aggressive, I'm all for that. Put Josh Allen's ass on the field. You give him $250 million for a reason. I have Josh Allen out there, and I want him to go make a play, and I live with that result. Now, ultimately, it didn't cost them because McCole Hardman fumbled on the goal line. I know we didn't even talk about that play yet, but it really didn't cost them anything there. But I just don't understand the logic with that.
He got bailed out from Boner of the Year, too. He got first and goal. Hold the damn ball. That game's over. That game is over. I don't know what you're reaching for the end zone for. It's not fourth down.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100% there. I don't know why. I get it. Players get some redemption, things like that. McCole Hardman's not one of those guys where you give him redemption mid-game. He already let one hit the ground earlier in that game. I wouldn't have gave him an end around. I don't know what. I partially blame Andy there, and 90% of it is on McCole, though. You got to know you can't dive, extend when you're at the 2-3 yard line. So
the Hardman play was even worse. Keep feeding Pacheco. You're damn right, Brandon. You're damn right, Bose.
And just last point that I want to make on that game specifically, I don't know why the national media has this obsession with making Josh Allen out to always not be the bad guy. I agree. Josh Allen looked great in that game. He looked phenomenal the entire game. We have to stop making excuses, because I'm looking at Get Up and First Take and all these sports shows across the country that talk about Josh Allen and give him all these excuses. I've never heard any quarterback get talked about in that same kind of light. I don't remember anybody saying
I want them to shut up on air.
And that's nuts. Like, I don't remember anybody giving Peyton Manning these excuses when he was losing to Brady all those years in a row. You didn't hear Peyton start getting that type of love until after he put down Brady and they went on and won a Super Bowl. So I get it. Josh Allen's a great quarterback, great talent. He has not gotten over the hump yet. We cannot have those conversations about him being in the same field as a Patrick Mahomes or even Joe Burrow, who also went and slayed Patrick Mahomes at Arrowhead.
You want to know who the Buffalo Bills are? I got news for you. I said this on another podcast. The Buffalo Bills are the Philadelphia 76ers of the NFL. They have an all-world talent and can get out of the second round. And whether it be a home playoff game versus the Atlanta Hawks or on the road at Arrowhead versus the Boston Celtics, no matter what you do, the 76ers and the Buffalo Bills cannot get out of the second round. You're right. And I'll give RC his credit. Ryan Clark had the line. He had the line of the entire. He's like, yeah, I will stand up here and tell you, Josh Allen is not the reason that they lost the game. But when you talk about all the great quarterbacks, you talk about the reasons that they won the game. I don't care if you're the reason why you're not the reason why you lost the game. Show me why you're the reason that they won the game. I was all for the excuses and not blaming Josh Allen over the 13-second thing, over what happened in Arrowhead. I seen it, right? He went down the field. He scored the touchdown. He gave his team the lead with 13 seconds left.
And never got the ball back.
Correct. And I'm all right with that. Not okay what happened to Joe Burrow at home. And definitely not okay what happened to Kansas City and no wide receivers in Buffalo.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about, the kicker missing and this and that, Diggs dropping the ball. If Josh Gordon,
I give Josh Allen his credit. I said the same thing. He missed the throw.
I know, but I'm just saying,
Bro, listening to Romo talk about Josh Allen, that was one of the most painful broadcasts ever.
I said it before when we did the show last week.
It was so painful. I don't think I want one day for there to be a woman who loves me as much as Tony Romo loves Josh Allen. I need that. Let me find that one day. All right. We got to preview some games. We're 42 minutes in. We got a lot of topics on the agenda, but we got Championship Sunday. And 3 o'clock at M&T Bank, you have the number 1 seed Baltimore Ravens, Todd Monken, Mike McDonald, Lamar Jackson, hosting an AFC Championship game. Do you have that on your bingo card? I know Cottrell did, beginning of the season. He had them 15-2. Hosting the AFC Championship game versus the baby goat, Patrick Mahomes. Which, by the way, Nick Wright deserves a little crap for his little Mahomes mountain of all-time quarterbacks. Did you see he has Patrick Mahomes as the second or third best quarterback of all time right now? That is the most absurd. Had him above Breeze, Elway, Marino. I was blown away. But I don't want to get too far in that. Mahomes versus Lamar. Lamar versus Mahomes. Reed versus Harbaugh. His former special teams coordinator in Philadelphia. Another coach from the Andy Reid tree. We got these two going at each other. 3 o'clock sharp in Baltimore. That's going to be a madhouse. That city is just as ravaged as Buffalo, Philadelphia, New England, Cleveland. Baltimore is a great fan base, and they're hosting an AFC Championship game. That game is going to be wild. Guys, the way you see it, I'll start with Cottrell, then Shally. I'll finish up from behind. How do you see?
Whoa.
Damn, guys. Right. Couldn't let that one slide. That's okay. Ravens Chiefs. What do you think goes on, Cottrell?
So in this game, I think this is going to be a lower scoring game than a lot of people are anticipating. I think they were talking about the public has hammered the over. As soon as I saw this matchup, I didn't think that this would be a game that it was, crazy explosive fireworks. I think you're going to have some explosive plays, but I definitely think that these defenses are going to come to play. You saw what Kansas City's defense looked like in the second half against that Bills rushing attack. And I do think, after they weather that storm, I think Baltimore comes out hot. I think after they weather that storm and they really settle in, you're going to see two defenses battle. And it's going to come down to the quarterback that makes that first mistake. And I really think it's going to be Lamar, whether it's a fumble on a carry where he's trying to do a little bit too much, or he tries to force the ball in somewhere where there's not enough room and Kansas City picks it off. I think this comes down to being a 3 or 4 point game. And like I said last week, like I'll continue to say, I don't know if I've ever done it on this show. I'm rolling with Patrick Mahomes because I just can't pick against that guy when I think the game's going to be this close. If I know that it's going to be a 1-possession game, there's not a guy I trust more in the entire football league more than Patrick Mahomes to go get me that score. So I think the Chiefs defense holds strong. They hold Baltimore to under 24 points in this game. I got this being a 24-20 game for the Kansas City Chiefs going to yet another Super Bowl.
Shally, tell me what you got.
I'm going to go against you on this one. I agree that I think it's a lower scoring game. I think the difference in this game is Baltimore's defense is going to be an elite unit, which KC just hasn't played the playoffs yet. Buffalo still found a decent way to slow them down. They don't have that explosiveness that they used to when they had Tyreek Hill and all those guys. I don't think Pacheco is going to run wild like he has the last 2 weeks. You have to give him credit. He's been incredible. I don't think he's going to run the ball like that against Baltimore. And I think the secondary and that front seven of Baltimore is going to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. Roquan Smith and all those guys. I think the defense here is the difference. I really do. I think Baltimore I think they do enough offensively to go up, kind of make KC chase late. I think I like the under as well. I think Justin Tucker probably hits a big field goal late to probably put it, in a must score touchdown type situation for Kansas City. I will go 20-16 Baltimore Ravens.
Okay. I guess it's a sweep for us thinking that it's going to be a lower scoring game, because I agree with you too. I think that this game's defenses are going to take over. But here's where I see the difference. I do not believe that Kansas City Chiefs offense will be able to move the ball versus that Baltimore defense. With those linebackers, I think they really give Travis Kelce a hard time in the middle of the field. And like Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen are just different. And I think if you're the Baltimore Ravens, you really got to find a way to slow down Rashee Rice and not allow the run game to get off with Isaiah Pacheco. I think Baltimore wins this game, and I don't think the game's that close. You guys might think I'm crazy. I think Baltimore wins this game 24-11. I think it's a very ugly game. I think Baltimore might pull away late. I think it might be maybe like 14-3 at the halftime. I think Baltimore dominates this game defensively. I think they force Kansas City to turn the football over. I don't think it's that enjoyable of a game to watch as we've been accustomed to. I think Baltimore gets sloppy, gets dirty, and absolutely dominates them on the defensive side of the ball. I love Baltimore in this spot, guys. I think Baltimore's going to the Super Bowl, and I think they're going to the Super Bowl on the back of that defense. Roquan, Patrick Queen, Howie Roseman, pay attention. Linebackers matter. Next game, 6:30 on the Bay Area. You have the 12-5 Detroit Lions, the Fighting Dan Campbells, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the emergence of Jamison Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Sam Laporta, and all those offensive weapons going up against that 49ers defense. That 49ers defense that's littered with superstars, from Fred Warner down to Nick Bosa, Chase Young. They have it all. Greenlaw, they got it all. I think this game will be interesting. I think a lot of the public is buying into the Detroit Lions after they won their game a lot more convincingly, and San Francisco almost lost their football game. But I think there's a huge thing that you have to pay attention to in this game. It's really important. Deebo Samuel. If Deebo Samuel plays in this football game and has more than 50 yards, I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell that the Lions win this football game. We talk about Purdy not looking like Purdy, but when you lose one of your most dynamic weapons in Deebo Samuel early in the game, he might have been a huge game plan guy. They might have been planning for him to touch the ball a ton. I think they were. I think San Francisco blows out Detroit if Deebo plays. Deebo doesn't play. This is a really close football game. Now, I'll tell you right now, I've made no bones about it. My allegiance for this football game, the team I'm rooting for to win the Super Bowl is the Detroit Lions. That fan base, lowest ticket to get into that stadium last week, over $500. That's incredible. Loving what Detroit's doing. I'm rooting for them. I hope I am wrong. I think Deebo plays. I think Niners win 34-14. Shall we?
I'm going to disagree with you in that I don't think Deebo plays. They already announced that he's not going to practice the rest of the week. There's going to be no contact. I think he's just going to be in a ton of pain. I don't think they're going to risk him getting tackled and making anything worse. And, I think there's probably hope that if they can get through this game somehow, that he'll be ready to go for the Super Bowl. I'm going to agree with you. I think it's a big deal that he's missing. I think you also have to look at, they still have Brandon Ayuk. They still have George Kittle. And I think you're going to get a lot of C-Mac. I think there is enough there still with the weaknesses that Detroit has, especially against the run. I think if you can get C-Mac going early and really take a lot of pressure off Brock Purdy's shoulders, let him settle in, make those medium throws to Kittle and Ayuk, and maybe take a shot, every now and then with Ayuk down the field to keep Detroit honest. I I think couple that with San Francisco's defense. I still think San Francisco wins a game. I agree with you. I think it's a closer game than it would be without Debo, obviously. But I'll be pulling for Detroit. Just like Gene, I want Detroit to win. I think it's a great story. I think if you look at Dan Campbell, and I don't know really what the right word is yet to kind of really give Jared Goff for what he's done with his career and how professional he was about a lot of things when he didn't have to be. And to go to Detroit, turn the team around and make them contenders now. I think it's a great story. I mean, if Detroit Lions win the Super Bowl somehow, I mean, it's going to be one of the greatest stories in the history of the NFL. That being said, I just think at San Fran, I think they kind of got their wake up call last week with the near miss with Green Bay. I think they'll be a lot sharper this week. I'll go San Fran 31, Detroit 21.
Real quick before you go, Cottrell, I do want to say this while we have 16 listening live, we have a new number listening outside, and I can see in the chat there's plenty of you guys on YouTube. Appreciate you guys. Wire2Wire will be running their block pool again this year. We will be selling blocks over the next 3 weeks for the Super Bowl. Well, 2.5 at this point. But we will be selling blocks, $20 a block. And like I said last year, we're not taking much of an intake, right? We're taking a little overhead to cover the restream, the lip sync, a lot of the stuff that keeps us on air. It will be a little bit of a donation, but it will be $1,500 prize pot out of a $20 per block. We will get all the details and we'll put it up on the website. If you can buy a block, help support Wire2Wire, it'll help us a ton. But most importantly, you guys loved our block pool last year. You guys got paid as the money came in, right? First quarter ended, that Venmo was sent out. Understand that. Join the block pool, Wire2Wire. We're ready to rock and roll. Cottrell, passing it back to you.
All right, so I think the most important thing here is, you guys both touched on a little bit, and it's going to be Deebo Samuel. I think he's the biggest X factor in this game. The Detroit Lions clearly have issues in their secondary. It's great that they got Gardner Johnson back, but their corners have not played well pretty much all season. And so if Deebo is able to go and he's able to at least be 70% of himself, I think they're in a spot where the 49ers are going to have a ton of success. Now, to Shally's point, though, I don't think Deebo plays. I do not think they risk putting Deebo out there. They were very cautious of him that last game. He got the x-rays. Everything came back negative, and they still didn't even try to push him back into the game. So with that said, I don't think he plays, and I think the biggest key to this game is the Lions are going to have to stay consistent in the run game. This is what got them to this point. You talk about, Amon-Ra being an all-pro caliber player and Sam LaPorta having a Pro Bowl season and things like that. They've been built on David Montgomery getting those tough yards, Jahmyr Gibbs busting those big plays, and that's what Dan Campbell's all about. He's about that grit, getting the dirty yards. And I think if Detroit is able to do that, I really think they have a good chance to win this football game. I think they're going to be able to score on that San Francisco 49ers defense. Jared Goff also has the luxury of knowing, I know it's not the exact same defense that he played when he was in LA, but he knows the tendencies out there, and he knows what it's like lining up against a lot of those guys over there. So I think he's going to be comfortable playing in Santa Clara in their stadium. And, I really feel like Detroit's going to be able to put up 31 points in this game and ultimately win this football game. I like the Lions to go win this game 31-27. And I think it's going to come down to a Brock Purdy back at it again, legacy drive. And I think he's just going to come up a little bit short. I don't necessarily know if he throws an interception on that last drive or if it's just turnover on downs, but I don't think Brock Purdy gets it done on the last drive to pull ahead of the Lions.
Listen, I would love nothing more. I got to give this comment a little love. This was really good, Brandon. Love it. Now, why he stands tough. Notice his man did not have his hands up. Detroit 8 Mile, Lions by 100. I know that's a joke, but we're gonna have some fun conference.
You might be talking about Deebo.
Exactly, bro. I'm so sick of Deebo Samuel running his mouth. I wish Chauncey Gardner-Johnson wouldn't engage with him, but that's who Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is. He always will be that guy. I've never seen a guy that's so good at trolling and talking shit as Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is. So I hope that Debo plays for the sake of I think that Chauncey can get Debo to throw a punch at him. I really believe it.
I'm sorry, Brandon. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it.
Legacy Drive. I like it. We will talk about football again next week, guys. We'll talk about the recap of these games, and then we'll have our Super Bowl preview show 2 weeks from now, which is always fun. I can't wait to get into both of those things, but we got a lot of topics, guys. A lot of topics tonight. This one should be rather quick. Terrible UFC paper card. There's a lot of times when you look at a UFC pay-per-view card, and you're like, this card's going to be terrible. And then it turns out to be like one of the best cards because there's like knockouts all over. And it's like, this guy fought this guy and it looked great. This was one of those times where we looked at the card and we're like, this probably should be a fight night. And then we watched the card and we're like, this should have been a fight night. This was a terrible card. I guess the only thing that's worth having a conversation about would be the Duplessis finish. Did you have Duplessis winning that fight over Strickland? I had it 3-2 Duplessis. I don't know why Dana White even said what he said. I know he's very open and active about like giving his opinion on the scorecard, and he has his own favorites. But in a fight where the majority of the public scored the fight for Duplessis, why did Dana White even have to go out and say anything?
I actually disagree with you. I don't think the majority. I think a lot of people had Strickland winning that fight, and that's why he said it. I think that it was very close, and we all have the same mantra how we feel about title fights.
Yeah,
to be the champion, you got to beat the champion. I didn't feel like Dricus did that. I thought the fight was close enough where I would have gave it 3-2 decision to Sean, and if you want to run it back, you can. But, I'm not necessarily mad at Dricus when I did think, like I said, I thought it was very tight. If you say you thought Dricus won, I'm not mad at you for saying that, but I didn't think he did enough to earn the belt. And then after the fight, in the moment, I didn't realize how bad the headbutt looked. It was definitely incidental, but the damage that it did was so damning. You saw Sean Strickland look very different after the headbutt in that 4th round and then that 5th round as well. So I would have gave Strickland.
I gave Strickland the 5th. I gave Strickland the 1st and the 5th, and I gave Duplessis all 3 of the middle rounds. I gave him 2, 3, and 4. 2 is the easiest round to score.
I gave Strickland the 3rd. So I gave him 1, 3, and 5. But I thought the 5th was probably what swung that fight.
Well, just looking at the official scorecards, the judge that gave the fight to Strickland gave him 1, 3, and 5, just like you. But all 3 judges scored the fight for Strickland in the 5th round. The round in contest was the 3rd. That just going by the scorecards.
Yeah.
Charlie, how was the card? Did you enjoy it? Were you eating your popcorn and enjoying a great UFC card?
No popcorn.
No popcorn. No popcorn.
Didn't watch it live. Watched it the next day. So I'm actually pretty much firmly in the same boat as Cottrell on this. Not mad that Duplessis won. If they would have gave it to Sean, I wouldn't have been mad at that either. I don't think it was a definitive, win on either side. And kind of like he already said, we are all 3 of us are big. Like if you're the champ, you got to lose. Like you got to be beaten. I don't think you can definitely say that Duplessis did that. I think it really, really boils down to how you judge between the difference between significant strikes and damage versus takedowns and ground control. We've had that discussion so many times because it's come up in so many different fights. And 2 judges went with Duplessis, and the other one went with Sean. So, yeah, I mean, that's about where I'm at. Like, kind of like Cottrell said, I'm not mad no matter what side of it you're on. If Sean would have won and they were like, hey, we'll run it back again, I'm cool with that. I think it's better for the division. Obviously, that the Duplessis probably, won the fight. And Izzy is apparently coming out of his self-imposed 5-year break now out of nowhere to fight him. So it'll be It'll be interesting. It sets up good matchups. I don't think Sean's gonna. I'll say this, man. I mean, the guy says a lot of crazy, inappropriate, out of pocket things, but I think he's a little bit better fighter than a lot of people gave him credit for. I'll say that. I mean, I think I think the shock win over Izzy. I think people expected him just to lose and kind of go away, and he didn't do that. So I'll give him a little bit of a credit, and I do think the headbutt factored in the fight, like Cottrell said. I mean, I think he was a little fourth round, definitely. I think you could see the effects. Fifth round, he looked better, but I think those two will meet again somewhere down the road. So I think we'll have another chapter to this.
I don't want to give it away because it is my "you got to be kidding me," but I definitely have a comment on "you got to be kidding me," and it revolves around the UFC. So I won't give it away, but tune in to the end of the show because I'm going to go scorched earth on somebody in the UFC for something that happened during this post fight or during this fight. Guys, I don't want to spend too much time talking about terrible card. The UFC doesn't deserve our time. They don't deserve our air for what they put out there as a pay-per-view. Now, the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame does. Shally, I'd like you to introduce it and let us know your thoughts on the Hall of Fame votes. But I have some really strong feelings on this Hall of Fame voting. And I think the part that, and I'm hoping you as a Phillies fan, I'm hoping you as a Phillies fan could throw your bias to the side because there's somebody that's just getting not enough votes. And it drove me up a wall. Before we talk about the three, and it's great, you got it up there, the three that got in. When I ask you who the best defensive center fielder of all time is, or top three, I don't think there's a person that really watches baseball and understands baseball that wouldn't have Andruw Jones in their top three of defensive outfielders of all time. And I think what ends up happening with Andruw Jones is they look at the end of his career. He came into Major League Baseball so young, and they look at his career when he was with the Yankees and the Dodgers, and they take that lasting image that happened of him, and they abuse it because that's not what this is about, right? He was a good enough hitter to get in. Statistically, his hitting's not Hall of Fame level, but Ozzie Smith's in the Hall of Fame, and the reason he's in the Hall of Fame is because he was the Wizard of Oz. Well, the Wizard of Oz of center field was Andruw Jones. And if you just didn't pay attention, I remember how many catches this guy made off the wall and ridiculous catches. He was locked down as they come. He'd steal games away from you. So I kind of wanted to give the Atlanta Brave, and I'm not a Braves fan, not a supporter, but I got to give the guy a little love because he should be in the Hall of Fame. But Shally, introduce us, and if you think I'm wrong, it's okay. I'll accept it.
No, I mean I don't think you're wrong. I think he's in that group that is still gaining steam, and I'm of the opinion he eventually gets in. We've talked about this before since we started doing the show. There is a rhyme and a rhythm to this, and there is the whole. Mariano Rivera was the first guy to ever get in with getting a vote from every voter. Adrian Beltre was almost, unanimous. He was 96 something or 95 something.
95.1.
95.1. He was like the fourth or fifth highest ever.
Yep.
I think, I'll be honest, this year was weird. Beltre was the shoe-in. Okay. Beltre was he was the easy one. He was going to be the first ballot guy. Maurer, we didn't know. Helton, I think certain people look at Helton differently than I do. If you ended up telling me that Todd Helton wasn't necessarily a Hall of Fame player, I wouldn't be mad at you. I think he gets a lot of bonus points for playing his whole career with Colorado. But I also think you take into factor, it's just been proven over and over about how much the stats are inflated in that stadium. I think he's a great player. Like I said, I'm not mad that he got in, but I wouldn't have been mad if he didn't get in. Joe Mauer gets in. He's probably the best pure hitting catcher ever.
Yeah.
And catching is I don't want to say it's a weak spot, but it's the standards to get in as a catcher are a little bit lower than other positions, just because back in the day, the catcher was not a position that was really valued by a lot of teams. They needed a guy back there that could catch the ball, and was good defensively. They didn't care if he hit 200. Joe Mauer is a great player. Cut short a little bit because with the concussion stuff that he suffered, and when his last couple of years of catching is why he went to be the first baseman in the last couple of years of his career. I have no problem with that one. At the end of the day, like I said, I think all three are deserving. I think Helton's a little bit more on the fence than I think he was kind of portrayed as, in my opinion, being an older school guy. The next group is very interesting. I was shocked Billy Wagner did not get in.
One vote away.
Yeah, so I think I think if you look at next year's class, Ichiro is the only first ballot guy, in my opinion. I think Ichiro might be 100 vote or 100% guy.
He should be.
He should be.
I feel like there's going to be someone out there, some scumbag out there that won't give
him. Will be. There probably will be. You're probably right. But Ichiro is a no doubter. After that, I think it's very interesting. I think Wagner gets in. And then that next group, you have to see kind of where they get their jumps. You mentioned the Phillies. Chase was down around, I think, almost 40%. Jimmy's right around 30. Those guys should gain a lot of steam next year. If you're a Phillies fan, I think it's weird. I'll say this, and I get flack for it all the time, but Jimmy Rollins is the better baseball player. Just a fact, and it's just the way it is. I think if Utley gets in over Jimmy Rollins, I think that's criminal. But the way it's already trending, it looks like that Utley's. They both might get in, but Utley's probably going to get in before Jimmy. That's a little crazy to me, but they're both trending in the right direction, and I think you got to really see where Andrew Jones sits.
Jimmy's going to get a lot of hype because of what he's doing with MLB. I think that Jimmy will end up getting a big jump next year. I think Jimmy goes from 15% to 50% in 1 year. I really believe that.
I don't know if he'll make that jump. I don't know if anybody's ever made that jump, but again, I think if you're saying one deserves to get in, then Jimmy definitely.
Oh, and real quick, let me address this dumb comment. Damian Hernandez, we love you commenting. We do absolutely love you. But when you say something this stupid, I need to put it on blast. I'm okay with you advocating for Barry Bonds to make the Hall of Fame based off what you think his career was before steroids or your argument for or against steroids. Everything that's come out about Pete Rose in the last 10 years should let you know how much of a scumbag that person is and why he should never be in the Hall of Fame. That guy is the worst human being, like one of the worst human beings ever, right? Guy was a predator, slept with multiple women that were under 18 years old. He's a terrible person. Just get him out of our conversation.
They're both awful people, but
agreed. But one's awful because he did steroids, and the other one's awful because he fondled 15-year-olds. I'll let you decide which one's worse.
I agree, but you're leaving out the part where Barry Bonds, got in trouble for hitting his wife too. But again, they're both. Everybody always makes the comment like it's not the Hall of Fame of good people. I get it. There are scumbags in the Hall of Fame. It's been documented. It's the same in every sport. We can't go under the impression that all these people, all these great players in every sport are all these upstanding human beings.
Oh, and by the way, Charlie, Todd Helton, you're right and you're wrong. And I don't say you're wrong. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I think you're right in everything that you said. The 5-year stretch that this guy had was absurd. And I'm so shocked that he didn't win MVP the year he batted 372.
It's kind of my point, though. Did he have a great 5-year peak? Yeah, there's no MVP in there.
You're right.
He's not a Gold Glove guy.
No, definitely not.
So it's
you're a hitter though. 316 lifetime batting average.
Agreed.
And that's after batting 240 and 250 his last 2 years.
Yeah.
When his career was winding down. He still finished his career at 316. He was really hovering around that 324 mark before those last 2 years. And I get it. I'm not for or against Todd Helton, so I get it. Joe Mauer 100% deserves to be in.
Oh, agreed. Again, I'm not mad that he got in. I am more of the opinion. I think the people that are like, oh, like he's a shoo-in, and I'm like, okay, like that is the part where I will disagree. Like, I don't think he should have been a first ballot guy, like stuff like that. Like, but he got in, and again, I'm fine with it. I'm not mad at it. Like, I would take, I would take cause to argue about a lot of other people that are in before Todd Helton.
My question would be, do you feel like they got it right by not getting Gary Sheffield in?
Yeah, see, that's actually who I thought Gene was going to bring up, if I was being honest. Because I think Andrew Jones is going to get in. And I think and to answer your original question, Gene, which I really didn't give you an answer for, I think Andrew Jones deserves to be in. I think batting average is such I don't want to say subjective, but it's a different number in today's game than it was 50, 60, 80 years ago. He's still got 400 and some home runs, I believe. And I don't know if he's top 3, but he's top 5. He's top 5 defensive center fielders of all time. You give me a top 5 defensive guy and it wasn't just a short burst. It was for pretty much the entire length of his career. I think he's got 6 or 7 Gold Gloves. I think it'd be a travesty if Andrew Jones doesn't get in. I'll say that. But
this is his 8th of 10th year eligibility, so he has 2 more years on the ballot. I think he gets in next year, but that's the part that kind of worries me is when you're getting down to the nitty gritty of these guys. And by the way, Cottrell, I want to answer your question too. You asked about Gary Sheffield. I'm indifferent when it comes to how the Baseball Hall of Fame writers view steroid users. I'm very indifferent about it, right? Like, I'm not going to fault if they let somebody in that's just so great that needed to be in, if he was on the Balco report or if he tested positive. But I'm also not going to fault the writers for keeping a guy out like Gary Sheffield, who tested on multiple times. He was on those lists. So I'm going to always be a purebred when it comes to guys who played the game clean and played the game right. I'm a morality guy. You guys know that about me. I'm very high horse. But I don't care if Sheffield gets it or not. Like, to me, that's irrelevant.
I get it. I think for me, though, the part that I guess still kind of confuses me, I'm surprised that he got as high as he did, knowing that some of these other guys who have also been popped as well haven't even come that close.
Hard though, bro. He got popped a couple times, but none of it was it just wasn't the same. Like, he didn't test negatively. He was on lists. It's just a lot different with Sheffield than it was with guys like Manny Ramirez.
I get it, but I'm just saying, you compare not even just Manny, but A-Rod, just compare their numbers. I know it was different circumstances about how they got caught with it, but just comparing their number, I don't think A-Rod's ever going to get 200 plus votes and getting that 70% range. So, and his numbers,
that's criminal. That's way more criminal than Gary Sheffield. That's way more criminal than Gary Sheffield.
Let's not go off on a tangent here. Here's the problem. The Veterans Committee meets this year. So if he's ever going to get in, it's going to happen very quickly. I think, to Cottrell's point, I think the fact that he's still got more votes this year than he did last year still kind of leads him trending in the right direction to possibly get in. Now, he never failed a drug test. He was linked to Balco, though, and Barry, and I can't remember the guy's name, the guy that ran Balco, that scumbag, whatever his name was. But, he was on record saying that he took some of the same stuff Barry did. So that, I think, has slowed him down. I think if you look at what Gary Sheffield was, just feared as a hitter his entire career, and people forget he was actually a very good defensive outfielder early in his career. I don't know if they will have the balls to put him in, because I think at that point they've been very adamant that they're not putting McGuire, Palmeiro, Sosa, Bonds, Clemens in. I think he falls very closely in that discussion, that if you're going to put him in, then a whole lot of people are going to start raising a stink. And I think that's what goes against Gary Sheffield. A-Rod, listen, Manny Ramirez, I've been arguing about Manny Ramirez all day today, and I don't know why. Manny Ramirez is the most habitual offender out of all these guys. The guy literally got popped 3 times after they started testing. He's never getting in. Yeah, he's never getting in, ever.
Why are people arguing that? Like, you don't see what the direction these Hall of Fame voters are going. They don't like guys that cheated the game of baseball. A guy like Adrian Beltre, who didn't, gets in as fast as humanly possible. A guy like Manny Ramirez, who did 3 times, is at 125 votes. I think it's very obvious the way people view this. I don't think it's not.
It's not going to change anytime soon. And here's the difference with A-Rod. People keep saying A-Rod and Barry are the same, and this is where I will stick up for Barry. We all know Barry took stuff.
Yeah.
Barry took stuff in the time before it was technically illegal or they were testing. A-Rod is not going to get the benefit of the doubt, even though as much as he's rehabbed his image. And I'll be honest, dude, I like listening to him on TV. I think he's very insightful. Yeah. He's a lot of great things to say. That's not going to get him into the Hall of Fame. A-Rod tested positive after the testing protocols went in place. He still got popped again after that. That gives him no benefit of the doubt whatsoever. A-Rod is not going to get in. And trust me, when I was younger, when he was at Seattle, and even when he first went to Texas, I thought he had the chance to be the best ever. And here's where he falls into the same category as Barry Bonds. He didn't need to take the crap. He didn't.
Yeah, you're right.
If you look at the beginning of their careers and how great they were, they never needed to go within a mile of this crap. And they were both first ballot, shoe-in, Hall of Fame legends. And they both gave it up for more money. And that's the price they're going to pay. They're never going to be able to go to like these signings that they go to and write Barry Bonds Hall of Fame 2004 or whatever. They're never going to have it.
Right.
And that's the punishment for doing it. And I agree with Gene. I especially when it comes to baseball, I'm a naturalist. I'm a purist. Part of Hall of Fame voting is, did they honor the integrity of the game? And if you're going to say, as bad as a person as Pete Rose is, but they banned him for baseball for betting, which is again something you can't do. Cheating in baseball, taking performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah, you're right.
No matter how you want to slice it, is cheating. It's breaking the integrity of the game. None of them are going to get in, and I don't think any of them should get in, and that sucks. Because before Barry Bonds turned into an asshole, I liked Barry Bonds. I loved A-Rod. Like Sosa McGuire, which is the most backhanded part of it, saved baseball. And neither one of them are ever getting in. It's just the way it's going to be.
All right, well, gentlemen, I think we're going to wrap up our Hall of Fame discussion. I do love the spirited debate. I think Billy Wagner and Andrew Jones get in next year. I think you see Ichiro. Obviously, I think he's a first ballot. I think he should be unanimous. I do believe there will be one 84-year-old white guy that doesn't vote him in. But sorry, I'm just honest.
Unfortunately, it's like Ken Griffey Jr. Like there was 4 people that didn't vote for Ken Griffey Jr. Like it sucks. You go back to like even DiMaggio and guys like that. Like DiMaggio went in first ballot, but he got like 85% of the vote. I mean, he's a top 15 player ever. Like it's.
And at that time frame, it wasn't probably top 15. It was like,
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
It was 4.
Correct. 100% correct. Exactly.
Tom Gallo, talk about a guy that plays the game the right way. Tom says, play the game right or don't play at all. All about honor and respect. And if you ever watch Tom Gallo play some softball, that guy plays the game the right way. Love him. Awesome dude. Great comment, man. Appreciate you. All right, guys, we got a lot of NBA news. So it's not just a little NBA news. What happened?
The Hall of Fame. Keep going.
Okay, don't argue. We have a lot of NBA news. First, before we get into our all-star predictions, which I really love to get into our West starters, our East starters, and where we're going to be there, we got to talk about a firing that happened. We got to talk about a trade that happened in the NBA. Guys, 2 trades, if we're being honest. We didn't get the Siakam. We did the Siakam trade last week, right?
We did, yeah.
Okay, so we're just talking about the Kyle Lowry trade and everything that happened there. But I got to talk about Adrian Griffin, and I got to talk about the Bucks and them letting him go after starting the season 30-13. So, first-year head coach, 30-13, he's fired. I want to ask you guys a question. Just question for you. Do you think that there's any coaches in the history of the NBA that have been fired when their team had a 698 winning percentage?
Yes.
Who?
David Blatt.
That's right. The brought him out of town. I forgot about that.
Did he have a 698 winning percentage in his career?
Oh, I don't know if career, but
that's his career winning percentage, Adrian Griffin right now.
I don't know. I just remember Cavs were first in the East when they fired Blatt.
I also
won a championship, so it worked out for us. So hopefully,
they had Ty Lue. I also think it's really interesting that the guy that campaigned for him to be the head coach seems to be the source of why he's fired 43 games in. And that's Giannis. Guys, I know that Adrian Griffin was not getting along with Damian Lillard, but I think the straw that broke the camel's back was the comments he made jokingly about Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't know how you let a guy go after starting the season 30-13, his first year as a head coach. And then to compound that problem, you bring in Doc Rivers. Now, Doc Rivers, in the nicest way I can describe him for you, is he's not an X's and O's guy. He's a Jimmy's and a Joe's guy. That's the nice way to explain it. He's a motivator of talent. Everyone likes him. He has camaraderie within the team. And I think the Milwaukee Bucks organization starts seeing some problems internally with superstars. And I think the trio of Lillard, Giannis, and the coach just didn't see eye to eye. Now, here's where it becomes a problem. At what point does it become coaching up your superstars and coaching your superstars hard, but not coaching them hard enough that they get you fired? Because that's where I think we landed in Milwaukee is he's like, dude, stuff's got to change. Milwaukee is the least athletic team in all basketball. Take Giannis off the team, and that is literally the least athletic team in all basketball. They're slow, and they are 30-13. But they're not looking convincingly good, and they're not winning games by blowout, and things aren't looking old Jimmy and Joe. They hired Doc Rivers. Is he going to motivate them to win some more regular season games? I'm not a fan of what anything of Milwaukee did. I don't think you fire a first-year head coach 43 games in when he's 30-13. And it's almost like it's borderline tampering because I know they were looking for Doc Rivers and talking to Doc Rivers while Adrian Griffin was their active head coach.
He was not assistant, but like the veteran, like mentor in the Bucks organization. Like he would go to Bucks practices and mentor some of those guys there. So 100% they had conversations with him. He was quite literally in the building.
Your thoughts on this firing?
If you're a Sixers fan, you love it. I mean, the way I look at it, the Milwaukee Bucks just got eliminated from championship contention. He is. Listen, I mean, this is going to come out eventually. I think a lot of it, I think we can sit here and speculate on a lot of it. I think we'll get some of it right just because, we've all been around sports long enough and watched sports and seen this go down in kind of other ways that, we'll get some of it right. But I think when the real reason for this comes out, I think it's going to be very interesting because I do think a lot of what Gene said is true. I think a lot of this kind of stinks of Giannis, and they're going to want to kind of protect that, golden boy image that he has. I heard there was a lot of I've heard the one report, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes about, You know, GM and ownership weren't happy with, you know, the defense they were playing. And that was part of it because, to Gene's point, he was trying to coach up people. But like we said when this trade went down, you literally traded away your best defender to bring in Dame Lillard, who I like, don't get me wrong, but a guy who doesn't play defense. So like what did you think Dame Lillard was going to go to Milwaukee and become a lockdown defender? That's not what he does. Let's be honest about it. You brought him in because he can score. He scores more than Jrue Holiday, and they thought that payoff was worth more than the defense. I think it's crazy. It's really hard for me just to swallow. You know, regardless of whatever distractions were going on or differences they had, they still were 30-13. But like Gene said, I think a lot of people were upset because they have this unrealistic notion in their head that the Bucks were going to win every game by 12 to 15 points this year. That's not what the NBA is. And they're getting all these 3, 4, 5-point games. Well, yeah, there's a lot of good teams. That's what happens. These guys are all professionals. I don't care how bad they are. Like, you're not going to win every game by 20 points. That's just not realistic. So I think ownership kind of needs to take a step back here and kind of get things back in order. And I know you have to take Giannis's opinion and his input and what he says seriously and factored into equation. I don't think it can ever be the inmates running the ship kind of thing, because when that happens, it very, very rarely works out. So the one that jumps to mind is the Blatt one. And you know, at the end of the year, they were the only ones in my memory that could sit there and say, I told you so, because they won the championship without him.
Pat Riley taking over for Van Gundy's brother, Stan, in the middle of the season kind of worked out for Miami too. But that's Pat Riley, Hall of Fame coach, who was already in the organization. Yeah. So I just, there's very few that you look at and you're like, oh, that made sense. And then it worked out. I'm not as concerned with Doc taking over, and we can all poke our fun at that. I'm more concerned over you let a guy go after 43 games when he's 30-13 because he wanted you guys to play more defense when you have a team that is literally just littered with slow, non-defensive players. Like, I looked up the Bucks depth chart, and I want you to tell me if this sounds like a team full of like star defenders. Dame Lillard and Cam Payne are your point guards. Yeah, we're not going to play defense there. Malik Beasley plays a little bit of defense. Pat Connaughton is your backup 2 guard. We're not going to play a lot of defense there. Chris Middleton and Andre Jackson Jr. are your small forwards. Once again, not going to play a lot of defense there. Now, here's where they have the depth and number of defensive players. Giannis, Jay Crowder, Bobby Portis. I just don't think you can play them all on the court. I think you can easily get Jay Crowder in there and play big, moving Chris Middleton to the 2. But any 2-guard in basketball is going to run around Chris Middleton. So then you're really just using Jay Crowder to run around and try to take over a 2-guard, and you can't do it. So like they're fundamentally built wrong. And I thought we knew that when they made the Jrue Holiday trade.
Also,
guys,
I don't think so. That's where I do disagree. I think that obviously I think the Bucks do need to make a move, but I also believe that I wouldn't have hired Doc. I will say that. Wouldn't have hired Doc. I think getting that veteran guy in the locker room, I guess, makes the most sense in this kind of situation. I think the biggest thing with this Bucks team, though, Rome wasn't built in a day, but they got blown out by the Cavs on the Cavs home floor. The Pacers beat them 3 out of 4 times already throughout this season. The Celtics have been giving them problems all year. And those are, 3 of your top 5 teams in the Eastern Conference. So I feel like
what is Doc going to do to make them be better versus those teams?
No. That's where I'm saying I wouldn't have hired Doc. I would have let Adrian ride it out throughout the season. And if you came up short, you let him go, and then you go from there. You could have hired Doc. Doc was working at ESPN. You could have hired Doc before you got Adrian if you thought this might be an issue and you thought this might be a direction you wanted to head in the future. So I don't understand that portion of it. And the other thing I don't get is firing them before the deadline, where there's going to be teams that want to get rid of pieces. Chicago is going to be in the spot where they're probably going to be tanking the rest of their season. They're going to trade Levine to a contender. They're going to potentially trade DeRozan to someone. Like Alex Caruso could be a guy that changes the defensive culture within this Bucks organization
overnight,
and you get him for next to nothing. And then Adrian Griffins can work with that lineup. I understand the brass is thinking win now. We have to win now. We have to win now. But I do think they rushed to judgment, over 43 games. That's absolutely nuts.
Got to talk about a trade. Kyle Lowry. Guys, Kyle Lowry, has he ever been bought out of Charlotte yet? Does that happen?
No, they said they're not in a rush to buy him out.
They're not in a rush to do anything.
Except lose.
Exactly.
I love the trade for Miami.
Same.
I don't know how you can look at this trade, and I think that Charlotte obviously gets their first round draft pick. They get rid of Terry Rozier and opens a little bit more space up in their backcourt. I love what Miami did here. They instantly have their second best scorer.
Arguably first.
No.
Regular season.
Regular season. Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler are going to always be up there, but Rozier's going to bother people. He's a good defender. Can score the basketball. He's going to add athleticism to your team. He's quicker than Kyle Lowry is, obviously. Kyle Lowry needs to retire. The only thing I can see for Kyle Lowry, and I mean this, right, is him being a 10 to 15 minute per game guy, backing up a young point guard. I mean, I hate saying this because I don't want him, but like he wouldn't be a bad fit for the 76ers to back up Maxey, to come in and be like a leader, help him with his development, teach him how to be a pro. You're correct. That's what I'm saying. I think that would be a nice little home for him, but I think he needs to wrap it up after this year. I think he should have wrapped it up 2 years ago. Last year he got a little bit of resurgence in the playoffs. I think it's it for Kyle Lowry. And it's a great career, man. Villanova kid, local kid. Like him.
They let everybody in the Hall of Fame, and he's got a shot.
Your thoughts on the trade? Chally, you have any thoughts on the Terry Rozier, Kyle Lowry trade?
I think it's a trade Miami had to make to kind of get, like you said, a little bit more defense, a little bit more reliable offense. And they've kind of fallen off the pace a little bit. So I know they've dealt with a lot of injuries. I know Buckets hasn't been healthy most of the year, but they kind of, we're past the halfway point here. They kind of got to get their asses in gear here. If they're going to try to ramp up for one of these tough runs in the playoffs again. So I think it's a great move for them. They give up the one, but again, I think getting Terry, I think he's under contract for 2 more years after this one.
Yep.
And also shed, Lowry's contract. I mean, I think it's a win-win all around. I fully expect Charlotte to buy him out, get the exception, and then kind of move on and do what they're going to do. And if he comes here, kind of the hometown, send off, I'm fine with that as well. So
it's pros pro.
Yeah, it'd be great to have in the locker room at this point. And like you said, mentor Maxey and stuff like that. And he plays 10 minutes a night, fine. I'm fine with all that.
All right.
I absolutely love the move. I just feel like the best part of the move is Terry Rozier fits that Heat culture so well. Like he's gonna come in, do whatever dirty work Spo wants him to do, whoever he wants him to stick every night. Like he's gonna fit perfectly into what they want to do, and he's never afraid of the moment. So I know, we talked about Jimmy in the playoffs and that Heat team in the playoffs. Their biggest issue is not who they can stop. It's about putting the ball in the bucket consistently. Tyler Hero got hurt last year. They didn't have that second consistent score. Bam can create sometimes on his own, but not consistently. Terry Rozier is a guy who can go out there. I don't care who's guarding him. He could drop 20 against anybody in the entire league. So absolutely love this move from Miami.
All right, well, let's get into some All-Stars. Guys, I'm going to start up hot. I want to go first on the West, and I'm going to let you know right now, I'm not starting LeBron James.
Me either.
I do not have LeBron James starting. And listen, I know he's going to start. This is my starters. This is who I am starting. The biggest decision that I had to make with my West starters was the guards. Now, a lot of people think Steph is going to start, and he probably will because of the popularity vote. Steph's not even top 3 right now in the West. But for me, though, SGA is like an MVP conversation guy. The Thunder are number 1 in the West right now. SGA was my no doubt about it starter. And then I had to look between Luka Doncic and Anthony Edwards. And Anthony Edwards, I won't fault you if you have him on there, but statistically, I just couldn't find any reason to start Ant over Luka. Luka's averaging more points, rebounds, and assists per game than Ant. I love what Anthony Edwards is doing. The reason I stopped to talk about that is because I want you to understand that how much of a conversation piece he deserves in the starting lineup. But the front court for me was a little difficult, but really wasn't when I looked at things. The only thing that kind of worried me was, did Kevin Durant play enough games? And then when I looked it up, I'm like, he's at 36 games out of 43. Like, I'm okay with that, right? I'm all right with that. He's averaging 30-some points a game. Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis has been incredible for the Lakers most games. He does have his Jekyll and Hyde appearances, but he's a defensive stalwart and Joker, second best player in the league right now. He's probably the best player in the league, but statistically, he's probably the second or third best player in the league. So Joker was an easy start. My West All-Stars were pretty easy.
All right, so I'll go next here. Looks pretty similar to Gene. It's funny because we actually talked a little bit earlier about our front court, and originally I was gonna have LeBron start in that front court. I didn't realize Kevin Durant had played that many games this season. Kevin Durant, it feels like that Suns team really hasn't been healthy all season. They haven't had their guys on the court. That's been the case, but that's just because so many of them have just been missing at a different time. But Kevin Durant has been pretty consistent. His numbers are up there with, the best of them in terms of scoring at this point. So I got Kevin there as one of the forwards. Anthony Davis, Gene already mentioned. He's having a great year so far. Been the best player on that Lakers team. Joker's been phenomenal as always. Definitely top 3, top 4 right now in the MVP discussion. And then here's where we differ. Gene gave the love to Ant. I feel like what Anthony Edwards is doing right now, Luka's playing absolutely phenomenal. I'm not mad at all that Luka, if he has a spot over Ant. But what Ant is doing, he's, in my mind, he's turning into one of the faces of the NBA right now. Yep. You put him on any given night, he's putting on a show. I know Cat has 62 the other night, but Ant is different. Like he's almost must-watch TV at this point. The Timberwolves being as successful as they are this year, I gotta give credit to Ant here. So I'll put him in the starting lineup. And then SGA has to be a starter for me. I mean, if you're talking about players in the MVP discussion, Shea has to be within your top 3. What he's doing over there in Oklahoma City. I know we all expect them to be good this year. Don't know if we expect them to be a 2 seed over in the West. And SGA is a big part of that. And not only is he a big part of it because he's putting up the numbers offensively, he's doing it as efficient as anybody in the league. So had to start SGA there as my other guard.
I want to make a small argument against you with Anthony Edwards. And you might laugh at this, but statistically, if you look at their numbers directly across the board, Anthony Edwards statistically has the same exact stats, almost to he's averaging 1.7 rebounds more, 1.5 assists less, but their stats are identical, except Tyrese Maxey doesn't turn the ball over as much. Tyrese Maxey has the exact same stats across the board. Now, yes, Ant is much watch TV, but Tyrese Maxey is statistically better.
But you know that's not the case.
I do, 100% do. I'm just saying that I can't start him. He's not top 5 in any category in the league. I can't start him over Luka. I couldn't.
Timberwolves are the number 1 seed in the West. Luka and the Mavericks are down to number 8. So give me winners and players who influence winning.
I'll remember that. I hope that you keep that same energy with your East.
So my West is identical to Gene's, and I feel I'll be brief here because we kind of already heard the rundown from the first two gentlemen with only one player being different. SGA again, I think he is what makes that team go. Oklahoma City is finally reaping all the rewards of all these draft picks they've had. He's their best player. They are the 1 seed currently as we sit right now. I think a lot of people would say that's probably still overachieving a little bit. The kid's a stud. He deserves his first starting nod. Luka's Luka. Luka does what Luka does all the time. I just think he's hard to keep out. I understand the Anthony Edwards, argument. And I agree with Gene. Steph's probably going to start because of the popular vote, but I think Luka deserves to be there. Joker, he's either 1A, best player in the league. Denver is still one of the best teams, defending champions. Not much to say there. He does what he does every single night. Kevin Durant has kind of been the guy that's kind of held Phoenix afloat through all the BS to start the season. Bradley Beal playing like 9 games, whatever the hell he's doing. Devin Booker's been off because he's playing out of position. Kevin Durant's kind of starting to look like old Kevin Durant. He's averaging 30 points a game. I definitely think he deserves to start there. And then Anthony Davis, again, I think most nights, I think he's been the Lakers' best player, and that's no slight on LeBron because LeBron's pushing 40, and he's still having a great year. There's a lot of people that would have him probably starting on their team, but I think Anthony Davis has been the slightly better Laker this year, so I went with Anthony Davis.
I mean, stats back up everything you just said as far as Anthony Davis and LeBron James. I actually, to be perfectly honest with you, the forward that I struggled to leave off my list was Kawhi Leonard, not LeBron James.
Kawhi was, I agree. Kawhi was higher up on it for me than LeBron. So, these are mine. So, yep. I didn't know I was going back to back. I apologize. So the front court here is very easy. I doubt anybody has anything different than.
I feel like we're all going to debate over the 2 guard again. It's literally.
It's probably what it's going to be. I think Tatum, Giannis, and JoJo. I think
no brainer.
No brainer. I think somebody who doesn't watch basketball could pick those 3 right. They're 3 of the top 6 players in the league. JoJo is the defending MVP. Giannis is Giannis, and Tatum is just great.
Yeah,
I'll go the other way first. I'll go Halliburton. I think he's having a breakout year. I will give Gina's love. He was one of the ones that was really high on him coming out of the draft. Kid's absolutely just taking a massive step towards superstardom this year. Had an amazing first half. Deserves to be the starter. For the 2 guard, this came down to Maxey, Brunson, a couple other guys. I really got nitty gritty, went down to usage and stuff like that. I think Jalen Brunson's had a great year, but I also look at how much he has the ball in his hands. I think Maxey's the more efficient player. He does more with the ball in his hands, less, and their stats are almost identical across the board. And he plays second fiddle on his team as well, to JoJo, obviously. So I think Maxey, all things considered, I think has had the better year. I slightly gave him the nod over Brunson. If you have Brunson, I'm obviously not upset about it.
Well, I don't think Cottrell's going to have either. There we go. I knew it.
There you go. So obviously, front court. We talked about it already. Front court makes the most sense. Makes the most sense of everybody. These were the 3 guys they had to be. My guard spot. Me and Gene, we had some conversation here, and I really had to dive into the numbers behind everything. And I think before this past week, I think Maxey's your guy. If I'm being 100% honest with you, I think Maxey would have been that guy 10 days ago. He's probably my starter here. Jalen Brunson has been on an absolute tear. He's put up at least 30 in his last 5 games. Donovan Mitchell has also been on a tear. Cleveland's won. I think they're on a 7-game winning streak at their point. They've won 8 out of the last 10. Slight edge I gave it to, looking at all things even. The Knicks are playing great basketball. Cavs are playing great basketball. Donovan Mitchell has slightly better stats, and he's doing it with Darius Garland and Evan Mobley not on the court. So that's really why I gave the slight lean to Donovan Mitchell over Jalen Brunson right now. The nice thing is, though, is that if you've been paying attention to basketball, Tyrese Halliburton probably won't play in the All-Star game. He's been hurt. He's been out for a while here. So you're probably going to get Brunson and Mitchell back there, or Maxey and Brunson, some combination of those three. Halliburton, I think he gets the nod, though, the votes. You know, he should get that all-star starter moniker, and then they're going to replace him with, you know, one of the three guys that were mentioned in here. But that was the reason why I gave that slight edge to Donovan Mitchell.
Well, the reason I gave the slight edge to Jalen Brunson is he's played 10 more basketball games than Donovan Mitchell. He's played 42 games versus Donovan's 32 games. Now, Cottrell is right. Donovan Mitchell has been incredible for the Cavs, especially with Darius Garland out. I don't disagree with that. And I'm not kidding with you. Donovan Mitchell was my first one off. Maxey's actually my second one off. Player efficiency ratings by Hollinger is one of my favorite stats. I love looking at how efficient a player is. Tyrese Halliburton's number 6 in the NBA. That is insane. It goes Embiid, Jokic, SGA, Giannis, Luka, Halliburton. Then it goes AD, KD, Kawhi. Then it gets nuts, right? The edge in the player efficiency rating is Donovan Mitchell. So now I break it down even deeper, and I'm like, what does each player mean to their team? When the stats are almost identical, when you look at a guy that's played 42 games versus 32 games, and you really break down the numbers, I think Jalen Brunson's just an incredible leader. I look at the total body of work, and I understand that you're not supposed to do that when talking about an all-star appearance, but I look at the total body of work, what Jalen Brunson's done, revitalizing that Knicks franchise and putting them in a playoff push. They're 27-17. They're playing good basketball. He runs that offense. That's not a star-studded team, and I love what Jalen Brunson's doing. And listen, I might be a little homerish here too. Love Jalen Brunson, Villanova guy. I've been a fan of him for years. So front court's easy. Halliburton's easy. All three of us have a different two-guard. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. But all of the people that we have talked about tonight, 100% will be all-stars. They deserve it, and they've had great, great seasons. I cannot go through an entire segment talking about all-stars and leave out what Domantas Sabonis is done for Sacramento. The guy is a baby joker. He is literally does it all on a lighter scale. He's passing the ball well out of the post. He's great rebounder. And he could easily be a guy you talk about with the same likes of LeBron, KD, Anthony Davis near that power forward position, in that forward position as an all-star. Just wanted to bring him up because he's the 12th most efficient player in the NBA, and I kind of wanted to add that.
You know who Baby Joker is. I don't even know why you put that disrespect out there. Alperen Sengun.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. Sabonis.
Alperen Sengun.
Sabonis
passer. Bro. I get it.
Not to mention he's dominating my fantasy basketball league for me.
Okay, now we get down to the root of it. Now we get to the real root.
Guys.
There you go.
But he's averaging 13 rebounds, 8 assists. The GOAT is 20 points. That's almost MVP numbers. By the way, if you were playing in Steve Nash's era, that was way past MVP numbers.
Oh, boy.
Shots fired. Let's get into You Gotta Be Kidding Me, gentlemen. I know Shalley's got a couple. Cottrell got one. I'm gonna
like 3.
Yeah, so I'm
fun.
I'll start us off here, and I'll go pretty quick. So mine this week is gonna be close to home. Tristan Thompson, member of the Cleveland Cavaliers, got popped for steroids. The funny thing about Tristan Thompson is it's kind of ironic here. This is a guy who's been averaging 3 points all season long, 3 rebounds all season long, barely makes the rotation, and he's doing steroids just to be on the roster. Tristan, look, listen, I get it. You helped us win a championship. I'm grateful for what you did. You don't have to cheat at every part of your life. You cheat on your wife. You cheat in basketball. I need you to just figure it out and just own up to it and do things the right way. I don't understand how you can use steroids and still be the 12th man on the bench. So this week for me, Tristan Thompson getting suspended 25 games for using steroids just to be the towel guy on the end of the bench.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
That was a hell of a line, and I'm going to clip that. Can you please clip that after the show and send it to me? That will be on TikTok. That was a great line, Kittrell. It might have been your best line this year. That was a great, dude. I lost it. I couldn't hold it in.
What is yours about?
UFC.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not stepping on toes. So I got a couple goofy, funny ones this week. I'll start with Tyreek Hill from the Miami Dolphins. Filed for divorce, public record. Obviously, people went and looked it up, saw that it was there. Comes out the next day, goes, "I'm not getting divorced. I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. I'm happily married, and I'm staying that way." And all the reporters were like, "Bro, we have it. It's right here. It's on all of our phones." And then he didn't want to talk about it anymore. So that's number one.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Number two, this one's actually from a week and a half ago. This fell through the cracks. I'm not sure how. Ryan Rollins played for the Washington Wizards. Ended up getting released. Kids making over $1 million this year. Got caught stealing from Target numerous times. But not cool stuff. Not cool stuff. Not or even expensive stuff. He got caught stealing candles, counter cleaner, stupid stuff. Bro, what are you doing? He made the team next year. He would have got a $600,000 raise, made almost $2 million. He's not released and he's a free agent. That's number two.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
This last one hurts a little bit, only because I think very highly of this young lady. But I'm gonna go with Caitlin Clark flopping at the end of the Ohio State game when everybody ran on the floor and stormed the court after Ohio State, upset Iowa. Trust me, I would have loved to come on here and be trash Ohio State for taking a cheap shot at the superstar, but that's not what happened here. The two girls, barely ran into each other. There was no contact in the face. Caitlin Clark spun around like she got punched like Mike Tyson, grabbed her face, had to be helped back to the locker room. And then all the other camera views came out. She was, traumatized at the press conference. Listen, Caitlin, everybody loves you. You're the darling of maybe even college basketball in general, not even women's college basketball. You don't have to flop. Don't start that already. It's okay. You guys lost the game. You had a great game still. Just stay on your feet. So for this week, that's my real one. You got to be kidding me.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I'm glad you guys left me a little time because I kind of need to lead up to this. So in 2021, Sean Strickland had a post, and it said, if I had a gay son, I would think that as a man, I failed to create such weakness. So he was asked about it recently by a journalist, which I don't like the question in this. And I feel like you're looking for a soundbite, and he got it right. Strickland says, "Are you a gay man?" The reporter told him he was an ally of the community, which set Strickland off. "You're effing weak, man. You're effing weak. You're probably the effing problem. You elected Justin Trudeau. He took over the bank accounts. You're effing pathetic. You have no guts. While he shuts down your country and closes bank accounts, you ask me a stupid-ass question like that. F off. Move on, coward." Now, normally, that would be enough to get my "you gotta be kidding me." And I think those are horrendous comments. And then Sean Strickland's an idiot, and he can get my "you gotta be kidding me" any day of the week. What got my "you gotta be kidding me" is when they asked the president of the organization, Dana White, about, hey, you're giving these guys a long leash. And everybody knew what the reporter was asking. You're giving these guys a long leash. When is there a time where you step in and kind of filter some of the racist, homophobic, xenophobic things that your fighters are saying? And Dana White, instead of saying, I don't like the comments that he said, we don't stand by him, he's a fighter, he's an independent, whatever, you could have worked. He literally undressed that reporter. It's free speech, and there was two gay women that were fighting in the co-main event, and they had no problem. They don't care what Sean Strickland said. That doesn't make it any better. You have a UFC champion that's on record calling people weak and A, B, and C, and and making very homophobic and derogatory comments. Guys, you know me. I'm like a free speech guy. Like, I don't have this hard line in the sand. However, you can't, it's embarrassing. And when they asked the president of the organization, like if he stands by what Strickland said or the leash that they give him, he literally undressed that reporter. And I think that's pathetic. And I think that Dana White needs to do a better job of telling his fighters, literally, you can tell reporters, don't ask those questions. But he needs to do a way better job of controlling some of the things that his fighters say at these press conferences. Or don't have them. Like, I love the press conferences too, but if it's going to have hate, if it's going to be filled with hateful speech and it can't be said in front of families and things of that nature, don't have them. Because Sean Strickland's an embarrassment. And for you to say, and the worst part is this comes 1 month after he literally laid into Colby for talking about Leon's family. Oh, so the family comment was too much, but the homophobic comments weren't? Dana, I know what side of the conservative fence that you stand on, and I'm not on either side, right? If anything, I probably lean a little conservative. This is not okay, and I'm not okay with it. So a guy I normally love, Dana White, you've earned this one this week.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
By the way, before we get off air, I got to show off my t-shirt. Atlanta, I hope you're paying attention. Trade for Fields, rise up. I'm get him out of Chicago. Trade for him. Rise up.
Sounds like he's on his way out. So
I love it. I need Atlanta to make the deal. I think the back of my shirt says "Do the deal." I think it does. I'm not kidding. I forgot. Any final comments, gentlemen? We have like 30 seconds.
I got nothing.
I was just saying, just breaking news stuff that I saw while we were on air. It looks like once Detroit's done, that Ben Johnson's going to be named the head coach of Washington. That's interesting. If that ends up being
very
true.
good hire.
Very good hire. And Sharon Moore is already at Schembechler Hall. Apparently, Michigan has some. Since Michigan is a public university, they have a 7-day thing that all jobs have to be posted. But it is believed that he's already been offered the job tonight by President Santa Ono. So Sharon Moore is going to be the next head coach of the University of Michigan.
Well, I will take the last 30 seconds to talk about 3 guys that listen to our show to contribute all the time. They had birthdays this week. My man, Danny Dempsey, has been my friend since I was a child. My man, 100 Grand, just had a birthday. One of my best friends in the entire world, Nicholas Hurtado. Hope him and Nico are listening. I know Tiffany does a great job sharing the show and liking and listening. Appreciate you. And then our guy, Kevin the Troll, Kevin Mooney, just had a birthday. He's right now, like as we speak, getting married. He's in the Philippines right now getting married. So congratulations, Kevin, and happy birthday. Thank you guys for tuning in to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I'm the NFL Genius. That's College Cottrell. That's Scholastic Shalley. And we are signing out.